Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
How's your dad, ma'am?
If you've got a tip for Melissa, an unsolved case in your hometown, a true crime tale you'd like to know more about, how to make the tech support guy just fix the problem without going through his dumbass troubleshooting list, anything, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. And now here's your host, perfecting her excuses for when the weird guy down the street catches her digging through his trash for clues, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. Well, I'm nothing if not a trash panda.
Oh, a trash panda. Now there's a phrase.
Yeah, I really like that one. I like that one a lot. I don't remember the actual setup, but one of my favorite, it was a top 10, David Letterman top 10 was how to know, the top 10 ways you know your neighbor works for the FBI.
Yeah.
And one of them is that you find him dressed in a raccoon suit combing through your garbage. And just the idea of like a grown-ass man dressed as a little raccoon going through your trash.
There's a 5'9" raccoon in my garbage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's I am nothing if I'm not nosy, but I have very rarely gone through any of our neighbors' garbage that they know of.
Well, I'll be honest, it hasn't happened yet, but I can imagine it happening.
You work a lot of hours, and you don't know what the hell I do when you're not here.
Well, that's true.
So there's that.
So I can imagine it happening then. All right.
Well, I feel that I have been given sort of a crown, a badge of honor. You would think with my, personality, I would have been asked this question way before now. But I'm so, not up on the hipster lingo of you kids that I had to actually look up what the rest of it meant because I was like, I wonder what she's trying to say. So I possibly offended someone on a Facebook group page.
No.
Yeah, I know. Are you sitting down? Shocker.
What happened this time?
Well, I I may have made a comment that someone felt was insensitive. I don't fucking care. But anyway, a woman old enough to be my mother commented, "Are you serious?" ? Which of course I wasn't. But then she commented in capitals with many exclamation marks and question marks after to adequately express her vitriol at me. WTFIWWY. Now, everyone knows what the WTF is for. I mean, even I know that, and I know nothing. However, the IWWY, I'm like, I wonder what that is. Was she so upset that she hit extra letters after the WTF? I don't. So I looked it up and I found out that you kids say, what the fuck is wrong with you? So that's what WTFI, WWI, or WWY means.
She only knew.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. But everyone else knew that, I'm sure, but me. But I was just like, wow, I kind of feel, I don't know, I'm a little bit giddy with being given my new moniker of what the fuck is wrong with you? Many, many question marks, many exclamation marks.
You know how some people have, JD or PhD after
yes.
their name?
Oh,
you should
God
have those
damn
letters
it.
after your name now.
Jesus, Mark, why didn't you come up with this much sooner? I wanted some sort of a degree. I want a diploma printed with Melissa Ann Morgan Humphreys, WTFI WWY, 2018, August 17th. I want that. I'm going to work on that because I do feel like I've been kind of given a prize. So.
I'll be online ordering the plaque right now.
Yeah, it must be framed.
Yeah.
I like a nice wood frame. I don't want some, mid-century modern metal frame.
No. It'll have the script, the whole thing.
Oh, good. Yeah, good. I'd like it a very fancy font.
Yeah, we'll get a nice frame. And by the way, would you like a desk plaque as well?
Oh, you mean like I could have two? So like a desk?
You know, one of those little desk things with your name on it.
Like a smaller version?
Yeah.
I like that.
With a little brass plate, you know.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something.
All right.
So I know it's a shocker to the Tip-Sters, but that actually happened today. The first time in my many long, long years of living on this planet and offending everyone I possibly can. A woman, old enough to be my parent, asked me, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I'm feeling pretty good right now. My chest's all puffed out, feeling a little peacocky. Just kind of peacocking around.
I like it when you stick your chest out like that.
Well, you're a weirdo, and we're not going to go there. So, almost every time we record a podcast, I definitely feel like we should, and it's not in the budget, but I wish we could hire Bill Hader as Stefan to just every week as a prelude, just be like, this week's episode and the hottest nightclub in New York, and then just give a list of, it includes a Princess Cruise Line captain, an infant murder, a husband murder, a landscaper. I mean, it has everything, and a man named Skeeter.
Wow, that's the topper.
That's why I wanted to do this story so bad, and his family is very sweet, and I'm sure they're trying very hard to get the name Skeeter out of the lexicon, but it ain't happening, baby. Every article, every story about the man mentions his real name is Harold.
Well, actually, Skeeter might be better than Harold.
I believe so. I don't know. And it's interesting, Skeeter. I'm from Kentucky. I probably went to school with 7 guys named Skeeter. And at first I thought, I wonder if that's like some sort of shortened moniker for Harold. But no one I went to school with was named Harold. And, Skeeter was across many different names. There was a Steve named Skeeter. I kind of get that. They both start with S. I know it's probably short from mosquito, but I don't know if it means the men named that. I don't know a woman named Skeeter, but the men named that have like long legs or big wings, or maybe they're just bloodsuckers who pass diseases. I don't know, but all I know is that ever since I've heard of this story several years ago, I have wanted to do it, and I didn't have a podcast back then. So this is...
Here, let me present you with your podcast, milady.
Thank you, sir. Are you knighting me on both shoulders?
No, I'm giving you the WTF
IWWY?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Like, now twice in one day. I don't know if I can handle that. I'm a little overwhelmed at this. I sort of feel like Miss USA. I'm going to start crying. If I can't fulfill the duties of my title, I don't have a backup. So
we got the dogs.
The dog, Belladonna can be the WTFI, WWY.
Sure, we can just
I want to ask her that all the time.
We just put her in front of the mic and have her whine,
All the time. She whines in complete sentences now. It's really adorable. So, Skeeter Lyerla, yes, that's his name, Harold Skeeter Lyerla, he grew up in California and was a sweet, simple, and attractive guy. And he worked for Hughes Aircraft. He was a machinist. In the, I don't know if you would call this the Central Coast. I will defer to you, Producer Mark. Lompoc?
Lompoc is the Central Coast, yes.
Oh, see, I got it right. So all I know is that there's a prison. I don't really know.
There is a very famous prison there.
Right.
Yes, right.
I believe it was mentioned the first time that my ears, pricked up was, George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez. And
yes.
It's not Get Out and it's not Get Shorty.
I'll look it up.
I can't remember. Yes, thank you. But yeah, they were being threatened with being taken to Lompoc, which apparently not like a fun prison, not like a fun one. I don't think it's
it's not a one of the luxurious prisons.
No, I don't think it's a white collar resort prison. I don't think it's a good one. So that might be the most famous thing that Lompoc is famous for. But they also, I guess, have a Hughes aircraft
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big naval base nearby.
Oh, okay.
Naval Air Base, I think. And the name of the movie is Out of Sight.
That's it. Out of Sight. I think I knew the word was out was in there, but I couldn't remember. Out of Sight. Thank you.
It has the distinction, I believe, of being the first DreamWorks release.
I sure did love that movie. I love that movie. So yeah, the only thing I remember is being, some of the criminals being threatened with being transferred to Lompoc. So it just sounds not fun. So Skeeter and his family, sister and his mom, they have a lovely life in Lompoc. And he has been a dirt bike motocross enthusiast from the age of 10 or 11. And he was competing in a motocross event in his 20s. And a beautiful blonde named Cynthia Knox was watching him from the sidelines. And she fell in love with him, and it's easy to understand why they fell in love with each other. She was a really beautiful blonde, and he was a very handsome young man. So, go ahead.
You wouldn't think anybody named Skeeter would be handsome.
You would not. You're exactly right. That's why it's tough. But I had to do the story because everyone refers to him as Skeeter. It's better. You're right. It's kind of better than Harold. So, this is in, I think, like 88, maybe? No, had to be earlier than that. It was in the mid 80s. Let's just say that was in the mid 80s. So they move in together, Skeeter and Cynthia, but they live in Skeeter's mom's house. Cynthia Knox had been kicked out of her father's house at the age of 18, but her new boyfriend, Skeeter, set up a room for her in his mom's house. Marilyn Marks is his mother. And they lived there for a while, but then they relocated to Thousand Oaks, to an apartment complex. And Cynthia Knox was laying around the pool, and she caught the eye of a much older businessman who, saw this beautiful blonde chick laying by the pool. So he's 16 years her senior, John Litchfield. He's rich. He owns a ranch in Agora Hills, in Thousand Oaks area. He woos her with flowers and promises of an acting and modeling career, even though all he was like a, semi-wealthy landowner. He buys her a flashy red Corvette, and then he rented her a separate apartment near his ranch. He hires her to clean his house in 1986, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and says that, it's just a business thing, even though everyone knows they're having an affair. So she leaves Skeeter, or spends a lot of time with Mr. Litchfield.
You think Skeeter might have had a clue that she's going off and driving a new car?
It's all business. It's all business. What's wrong with you?
So, gee, honey, that's a great business you're in. You're living in a different place and driving around in a brand new sports car. Wow, that's a great job.
But she's cleaning house. He's cleaning his house,
so to speak.
No, he didn't. So his sister, Skeeter's sister Linda, is like, look, in the beginning, he really wanted to believe that it was just business, but as time went on, he had to know she was having an affair. And I do remember a time that they were all three together with the family. And Linda remembers her brother Skeeter saying, look, you choose me or you choose him. And she chose Skeeter. So she leaves John Litchfield, and she and Skeeter move back to Lompoc. They, really try and make it work. They got married in Vegas. They have a little baby girl named Kaja, and she arrived 9 months later. They got married in July of 1987, and they had the little baby girl 9 months later. And Marilyn Marks and Linda Pickerts, the mother and sister of Skeeter, Lyerla, were like, look, we know you're trying to make this work, but she's She's not like us. She's really into money and possessions. You know, we know you make a good living as a machinist, but you don't, you know, make the money that you need to make for her. He bought her a boat, and he was just getting tapped out by all of the things that Cynthia wanted and needed, the good life in Lompoc. So to save money, they end up moving back in with Marilyn Marks, Skeeter's mom, so they can save up and buy a modular home in Lompoc. So that lets you know, it's 1987, 1988, and you got to save up to buy your modular home. So
Fancy.
So they're living, it's just terrible. There was a investigation discovery show that covered this a couple of years ago, and I remember just sitting there with my mouth open, like, huh? As, they're interviewing Skeeter's mom, who is now, very, very old, and it's, on the steps of her trailer, and it's just like, oh, no. So I'm sure it was fun having Skeeter, Cynthia, and the baby move back in with Marilyn in her wonderful trailer. And apparently Marilyn really did not like Cynthia Knox at all. Of course, why would you? You're thinking that this is the woman who's tapped out your son and is cheating on him, or was at least anyway. So she ends up catching Cynthia Knox in the closet on the phone talking to John Litchfield. So even though they had said that she had chosen Skeeter over John, it was still going on, even if it was long distance from Thousand Oaks to Lompoc. So Marilyn, you know what happens when you tell someone in your family or your friend that, your boyfriend, your wife, your spouse is cheating on you. It ends up you're the asshole.
It's never a good idea.
It's really a tough place to be. And everyone's like, just mind your own business. And you feel crushed when you would love to tell someone that you love, look, this person is a remarkable asshole. And you just hope they find out some other way. You hope that they find out before you do. Because if holding that in is pretty tough. So I don't blame Marilyn Marks for, telling her son, look, she's sitting in my closet on the phone talking to her, ex-lover who she was cheating on you with. And he just was not going to buy it. He's like, nope, you're not going to convince me, and they tried. They really did try, but he wasn't buying it. And Marilyn Marks says, the sad thing is Cynthia walked into our family, destroyed it, and left it, and then she got away with everything. But not quite everything. We'll find out at the end.
I was going to say, was that just a spoiler alert, or
a little bit?
Okay,
a little bit of a spoiler alert.
Yeah, but then you added a little bit of intrigue. So,
well, yeah.
Ooh.
So he ends up buying a mobile home in Lompoc, and she's just like, this is not what I want. This is not what I want at all. And Skeeter really loved her. He really loved her. She would go visit John Litchfield and say, look, we're not having an affair. He's just trying to help me with my modeling career.
Uh-huh.
And Skeeter wanted to believe that, but I can't help but think he had to know this wasn't going to be good. She finally, left one day to take a trip down to Thousand Oaks to see John and said, I want to go hang out where rich people are. Probably not in their trailer park, I'm going to guess.
No.
You never know. I mean, the millionaire next door, but I don't know. So
not in the modular home park.
You don't know. Anyway, so Litchfield in the meantime had assured her, look, you're going to be famous. And he hires, and there's just these awful pictures. He hires a photographer to take pictures of her in her bikini and posing on the hood of her Corvette. And she's a beautiful girl, but she's still a little tacky looking. And he's, like not exactly old enough to be her dad, but not far away. 16 years older is, he could have been her dad if he was a teen dad, but we don't want to go there. But so there's these pictures of her in these, bikinis on top of her Corvette that he bought her. And it's like, Oh, Lord. Mrs. Marks remembered when they moved in with her, she had this giant, framed photo of herself in a bathing suit. And Mrs. Marks said, it was like some sort of painting of Monet.
Oh, boy.
And she hung it in, Skeeter's bedroom above the bed. It's like, okay.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This does not this is not paint a picture of these folks as I don't know, the most sophisticated, shall we say?
Yeah, there you go. They're nice people, and the thing that I love about them is that they will not give up pursuing Cynthia Knox for what happens next, because what happens next, not good at all. So even though Skeeter had made Cynthia an honest woman, and they had gotten married in July of 1987, they separate just a few months after their baby daughter is born in April of 1988. And Cynthia and the baby Kaja move in with Litchfield in Agora Hills. And Skeeter stayed in Lompoc. So that's April of 88. So May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 7 months later, November of 1988. Sorry, I had to count in your ear. I was also using my fingers and one of my toes. In November of 1988, Skeeter Lyerla is found dead, and he's 29 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Skeeter Lyerla had a golf date with his best friend, Ken McAllister, and they were going golfing at 6 a.m. on November 1st. During their golf game, he says to Ken, I think that John Litchfield guy, I think he's going to have me killed.
Oh.
The day that he's killed on his kitchen floor. So he's killed on his kitchen floor in his modular home.
Now his empty nest modular home now?
His empty nest. His wife and daughter are living in Agora Hills with John Litchfield and their Corvette. And he is stabbed on his kitchen floor. And it was a fatal stab to his back that was, pierced his liver and then thrust upward, and pierced his diaphragm, and then it reached his heart.
Oh, that's gruesome.
Yeah, pretty bad. So someone had attempted to clean it up, and they find a bloody kitchen knife and one single fingerprint left in the sink, even though tried to wipe the blood off, wipe it off, rinse it off, wash it off. Out, damn spot. Ain't happening. And Victor Perea is arrested almost immediately. Now, Producer Mark, I'd like you to ask me, who's Victor Perea?
I was just about to. Hey, Melissa. Who is Victor Perea? And by the way, this was a bloody fingerprint, right?
A fingerprint left on a bloody knife that had been attempted to be... It was the fingerprint was on the handle of the knife.
Who is Victor Perea?
Well, Producer Mark,
yes.
Thank you for asking. Victor Perea didn't just appear from the ethers. He was a landscaping contractor who worked for...
John Litchfield.
Yes!
How did I guess?
I don't know.
I think we should tell our audience that I don't learn about these cases until I hear about them.
You don't.
So do I get an award?
Well, you can have the WTFIWWY award after I'm done with it.
Yay!
Yeah. So, ironically, Skeeter Lyerla's murderer is John Litchfield's landscaping contractor, who worked for him on his ranch down in Agora Hills.
It's quite a coincidence.
Very, very coinky-dinkish. So, a retired detective now, Lompoc detective Harry Height, was, responsible for the case. And he told the San Francisco Chronicle, look, I interviewed Cynthia Knox, and she was very nervous. Very nervous. And even though he's retired, he, to this day, says, I know she had something to do with Skeeter Lyerla's death. So he's talking to her in an interview room back in 88. And he says, I just asked her straight up. I don't even know who Victor Perea is. I haven't, gotten the test results back. But all I know is her husband's been stabbed in his kitchen. And I have to tell you, the crime scene photos, this is just like, use this as a cautionary tale. Try to pick amenities in your home that if you're found dead, you will not be embarrassed decades from now. The harvest gold and autumn wheat and brown linoleum on the floor of Skeeter Lyerla's kitchen of his modular home is like, it's like an Andy Warhol painting that someone had accidentally had diarrhea on.
Oh dear.
It's really bad. So pick tasteful flooring. Not a lot of wild prints. I'm not saying you're going to end up dead on it. I'm just saying, if you end up dead on the floor of your kitchen, you want it to be a tasteful floor.
So always make sure you're wearing clean underwear. And
I don't care about that.
Don't have that,
unless you're caught dead in your drawers, and then that's bad if you got like some big giant shit stain or something.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, but I mean, in the body, the bowels release when you're dead. So if you're holding a bunch of stuff in, it's going to come out anyway. But it may not all end up on the floor. Anyway, I don't want to talk about poop right now. That's really not what I'm here for, is to talk about poop. So Harry Height is like, I just straight up ask her, who would do this? Is there anyone like who's the meanest bad guy who would do something like this? And Cynthia Knox just pulls straight out of her asshole, even though I said I didn't want to talk about poop. There's this guy who's working for John. He's kind of mean.
Just happened to mention it.
Yeah. He then, the detective Height finds out it's Victor Perea, ironically, who's the bad, mean guy working for John Litchfield that Cynthia Knox mentioned. So poor Victor Perea, not really. He did kill him.
He did kill him, yeah.
But you'll hear some details coming up here. He was convicted of Skeeter Lyerla's murder in May of 1989, and he was sentenced to 56 years. Now, he intimated that there were others involved, but didn't say anything outright until 2012. And it's during a parole hearing. He says, John Litchfield gave me $4,000 to kill Skeeter Lyerla.
Whoa, wait a minute now. He waited how many years? That's a long time.
From 1989 to 2012.
You would think that he would have said that as part of his defense, or, cut a deal with the DA or something. Yeah,
23 years in. He may have said something to his defense attorney, but there would have been no proof, at least back then. Ironically, they have proof that John Litchfield paid Victor Perea $2,000. So maybe he paid for half and maybe Cynthia Knox paid for half, although he was the one with the money. But John Litchfield's like, well, that was for landscaping work. That was to buy seeds and plants and supplies and Miracle Grow and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, he gave me $4,000 to kill Skeeter Lyerla and said that he was abusing Cynthia Knox. That was his excuse. It's like, he's an abuser. Okay. So now this will shock you. Victor Perea's parole was denied.
Yeah, that's a shocker.
Yeah. Wah, wah. So right after the trial began, John Litchfield proposes to Cynthia Knox because she's a widow now. And he gives her,
This is back in 89?
Yeah. Yeah, right after the trial of Victor Perea.
Okay.
John Litchfield proposes to Cynthia Knox and gives her a $12,500 diamond ring, which, in 1989, that's a pretty big price for a ring.
Yes, it was.
Pretty big price for a ring. And they run off to Las Vegas and get married. And Cynthia Knox can no longer be subpoenaed to testify in her first husband, Skeeter Lyerla's murder case.
Well, as it applies to John Litchfield, anyway.
Well, yeah.
Who just happens to be the guy that 23 years later, Victor fingers.
Right. So they're only married 2 months, and then they get divorced, which is pretty interesting. And then, July of 1989, 2 months after Victor Perea's found guilty of Skeeter Lyerla's murder, and she's divorced John Litchfield, their daughter is found dead in a pond
Okay.
in Santa Barbara.
Oh, I didn't expect this.
Yeah. So the story is 15-month-old Kaja Lyerla opened a sliding glass door and walked into a pond when no one was looking. And Cynthia Knox was the only person home. It was a decorative pond. And now she has no child and one dead husband and divorced from her second. Now here's where Marilyn Marks wins my heart. Not giving up on knowing that Cynthia Knox had something to do with her son Skeeter Lyerla's murder. She files a lawsuit against Cynthia Knox, against John Litchfield, and it says, and others. I don't know who the others are, but it's a wrongful death suit in the death of her son and her granddaughter. Now, it's really awful because Cynthia Knox, according to this lawsuit, had tried to kill Kaja 3 times. She, none of these allegations were ever investigated by the police. But in November of 1988, Cynthia Knox administered an overdose of Advil to Kaja, but I guess she was revived. In January of 1989, she places baby Kaja in a bathtub full of water and leaves the room, and the baby is revived. And then finally, she succeeds by having baby Kaja drown in a pond.
So these are all the allegations in the lawsuit.
Yes.
Brought by Marilyn.
So in her 15 months of life, baby Kaja had, come close to dying twice and then actually died on the 3rd try, if there was a try. So whoever Marilyn Marks hired as an attorney, I also love because they went after her. And this is one of my favorite things ever. I found out what RICO means. I always wondered what the RICO Act was. It's Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations. I did not know that.
Yep. Used against the mob to start with. That's what it was originally passed for.
Exactly. So they bring this, wrongful death suit in Superior Court of California in Santa Barbara, because that's, I guess, where baby Kaja was found deceased in her mother's parents' home. And they're alleging that she needed to kill Skeeter and baby Kaja to get $278,000 in payout of insurance, life insurance, that Skeeter had in his job at Hughes Aircraft.
Oh, so they both had to be dead?
Well, I think she thought she could kill Skeeter, but, Skeeter's employer notified Cynthia that her daughter got half.
I see.
So she was going to get $139,000 if anything happened.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Another part of the suit, which makes it qualify for the RICO Act, is that they used interstate phone calls, calling back and forth. They used interstate wire facilities as part of their scheme to hide evidence and to talk back and forth before Victor Perea's trial and get married, to set up their arrangements to get married in Las Vegas. And they rented storage spaces under fake names to hide incriminating evidence, including a benefits manual for the Santa Barbara Research Center, which was a division of Hughes Aircraft, which is where Skeeter worked. Why wouldn't you just ditch a benefits manual? Like, why wouldn't you just throw it away?
Right.
Why would you rent why would you hold on to something that could incriminate you.
That's so bizarre.
It's really bizarre.
That's just nuts.
But wait, much like Stefan, but wait, there's more. It's kind of amazing. So poor Marilyn Marks, her case is tossed out by an appellate judge after it's ruled that she has no standing to bring a wrongful death suit because she was not considered a sole heir at the time, and there's only one person permitted to bring such legal action, which would be a sole heir. Now that I didn't know, but I guess if you think about it, the people that have brought wrongful death lawsuits that I'm aware of, mostly involving the OJ trial, they were the direct heirs to a family member who'd been killed.
Yeah, right.
So even after Kaja died, mysteriously, Cynthia receives $25,000 from a third-party insurance policy. And Marilyn Marks is just like, I can't take this, and files the suit, but it gets tossed out in the appellate court. So Cynthia has a attorney now named John Floyd, who is an interesting man. And a lot of what is known about her as time goes on is through him because of what happened to her. So she fled to Texas with John Litchfield, who she's divorced from, saying that she was getting anonymous death threats by mail and phone, that she was afraid they were going to cut her brake lines. And of course, the, Lyerla family is like, we don't even know what the hell you're talking about. We didn't know where they were. Well, they had moved to Texas. But in 1994, Cynthia Knox takes on a whole new identity, Christina White.
This is while she's still in Texas?
Yes, they moved. She and John Litchfield moved to Houston.
And she takes on a new identity.
Then Christina White, who was a baby born in 1964 in Orange County, I believe, but she only lived one day, and she didn't have a Social Security number. But she takes on Christina White's identity, gets a no Social Security number, a whole new identity, and she's now known as Christina White. So Christina White, a.k.a. Cynthia Knox, and John Litchfield, they still stick together, even though they're divorced.
Yeah, they were married for 2 months, right when...
during the trial.
Right during the trial when they... Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's just such a convenient... Anyway.
So they moved to Houston together, and they launch a yacht charter and dinner cruise business in 1984. They have a fleet of yachts. They get amazing reviews. Majestic Ventures is the name of the parent company. They're known as Captain Christina and Captain John. All of the online reviews say our wedding ceremony went off without a hitch. Christina White, a.k.a. Cynthia Knox, helmed a 95-foot Royal Princess and was known as one of the best captains anyone ever met.
Wow.
According to people who, trained her on how to steer a ship. So she may kill husbands, but she's a really good yacht captain.
She's a damn fine captain.
Yeah. There's a man named Randy Pruitt who owns CRP Marine, and he was quoted in a San Francisco Chronicle article that said she was the most competent captain I'd ever met.
Wow.
Captain Christina.
Ahoy, mate.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to stop for a moment and talk about your best friend Vincent's wedding on a dinner cruise.
Oh, no. We can't do that. Why do we have to start talking about my bodily functions again? I thought you didn't want to do that.
I said I didn't want to talk about poop.
Okay. You don't mind talking about ridiculous amounts of vomit and bile?
There we go.
Oh, great.
So, do you know what year it was?
Let's see. It would be 1996 or 7. It was when I was still right when I'd started touring So might have been 96. I'm going to give 90. Okay, 96. I think. Yeah.
It wasn't in Houston with Captain Christina, was it?
It wasn't. I wasn't. Maybe it would have gone better because she probably would have steered. No, the person steered the ship just fine.
Right.
You're talking about a wedding where my friend Vincent got married on a boat, on a cruise,
a dinner cruise.
It was a daytime cruise. It was luncheon. It was a luncheon.
Oh,
and
luncheon
a
cruise.
very big, fancy luncheon with turkey and all the trimmings and all the. It was a big deal, on a cruise ship that went around San Francisco Bay. We took like a tour around San Francisco Bay. It was like I think 2 hours, a 2 hour. A dinner,
2 hour
lunch,
tour,
lunch cruise,
tour.
And I,
the weather started getting rough. The tiny ship was tossed.
Yeah, it was I was tossed.
If not for the
don't make fun of me. I have motion sickness. The thing is, here's the thing. I knew I had motion sickness, and Vincent invited me. I mean, I was honored to be part of the wedding. I was to be there,
right.
and so he invited me. And it just so happened that a few weeks before that, I'd been invited, and I was in Twin Peaks, Idaho, where my friend, or a bunch of people I know. He's our friend named Phil Key, who's a ear, nose, and throat specialist and otolaryngologist who lives.
Jenks Omiko.
Yeah, thank you very much. Who lived at the time in Twin Peaks, Idaho, and I was talking to him, telling him that I was very afraid of going on this cruise because I have such bad motion sickness. I mean, I've stood on the deck of a boat in dock in San Pedro and gotten sick and had to get off. And he goes, "Stop! Don't worry about it." Phil says, "Before you leave, I'm going to give you a prescription. Take it to your drugstore." And get these new things these things you put behind your ear.
A patch.
A patch. We're going to give you a patch. I'm going to prescribe a patch, and you're going to be fine. It's not a big deal. And I said, oh, okay. And I did. I got the patch, and I put it on right before we went on the boat. And the wedding ceremony was above deck. It was a beautiful day. It was windy and cool, like it always is in San Francisco. And I was okay during the ceremony, and I was okay. Then we went below deck where the dinner was, and I sat down at this table, and I remember the last thing I looked at before I had to run out was this big giant turkey that they were bringing in. And the thought of eating anything right then, I got up and I ran out, and I had to go down another floor to get to where the heads were.
Yes.
And I had to go down, and everything I'd eaten since 1970 came out. Anything that was in my body for the last the first 25 years before that comes out of me, and I'm. For the rest of the whole cruise, this is like. But remember, this time we're like 15 minutes. We had the ceremony was very quick. Then we go down below, so maybe we'd been out on the bay for 15 minutes. We still had an hour and 45 minutes or so left in the cruise, and I'm sitting down below deck. There's other people, and there was a bar next door too. There was a bar where other people that were not part of the wedding party were enjoying this cruise. And laughing, and I was sitting across from the heads and this bench that they had there with my eyes closed in a flop sweat. I mean, I lost every bit of. I don't think I had anything left in me because I was covered in sweat. My shirt was soaked, and I stayed down there. I would not even think about going back because I looked so bad. A couple of times, a couple of people from the wedding party came down, and they thought I was really like going to die or something because I looked so bad. And I lost everything. I kept having to go back into the head and up chucking. After a while, there was nothing left, but I just kept doing it anyway. Till finally, the last hour of the thing, I just sat there with my eyes closed, and I remember one point. I had my eyes closed. I couldn't see anything. I didn't want to open my eyes for fear of getting sick again. And I just hear these people walking, and this lady's talking, and you could hear the ice in their drinks clinking, and they walk by me from the bar going out to the observation deck. And I hear this lady stop talking, and there's this little pause, and then just this voice, this loud voice. "Oh, you're sick, aren't ya? Yeah, and if I could have mustered any strength at all, I would have thrown her off the fucking boat right then. But the weird part is, when I got off, this is Melissa gets on me all the time. You get on me all the time for this. You tell me this is all in my head. And you're right, because after 2 hours, and it just seemed like it was a week, I got off the boat and I stepped onto solid concrete that was not floating. And within 90 seconds, I stopped sweating. My clothes were dried. I was euphoric. Felt like, I was on top of the world, whistling a happy tune, hungry, and just thrilled to be alive. And so let's just say I'm not a big fan of cruises.
Control issues, party of one. Control issues, party of one.
I remember because I just started touring, and about a week after that, I was planning a tour back east, and they were having a graduation event at some place, one of the colleges back in Maryland, I think, and they were having a cruise, and they wanted me to play a show on a cruise, and I didn't take it. I had to turn down.
Well, yeah. Why would you
paycheck.
take that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, longest story ever. Anyway, back to the murder.
You brought it up.
I did. I'm really sorry I did now. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't go into the fact that, that's probably control issues. But anyway. So, Christina White, a.k.a. Cynthia Knox, has easily obtained and renewed her mariner's license 4 times over 15 years. And she had even successfully acquired TSA documentation for entry into secure port areas. So she'd gotten all that with a stolen identity.
Jesus.
Yeah. So when, quotes, Christina White applied for her U.S. passport in 2015 and her mariner's license again that year, the feds are like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So authorities check her fingerprints, and they end up linking them to all of the prints that were taken in Skeeter Lyerla's murder because she lived there with him. They had her prints as part of the investigation. Her print was not the one on the knife, but Christina White's in trouble.
Uh-oh.
So as they're looking into her identity and what the hell's happening here, they get a hold of retired Lompoc detective Haidt, and he looks at a picture of Christina White and he's like, yep, that's Cynthia Knox, all right. That is Cynthia Knox, all right. So they find out then that she had obtained a copy of a birth certificate of poor Christina White, and she had gotten a social security number and other information. The poor real Christina White was born in June of 65. I thought it was 64, but it was 65, but she had died the same day. So she got a driver's license in Arizona, and then, that's according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Houston. So this has become a federal case now because she's, a stolen identity. So she's arrested after this investigation, after she tries to renew her mariner's license, or her passport and her mariner's license. She's arrested in March of 2016. And she finally admits that she's not Christina White, but she had, obtained this poor girl's, identity, and that she wouldn't say who, but that someone else had gotten, the birth certificate for her. I'm sure you can probably do that online, or you probably call Amazon right now and get, a new identity. So she pled guilty to charges of false statements in a passport application and aggravated identity theft. So in July of 2016, she is sentenced to 12 months for the phony passport and 24 months for identity theft. So 3 years. 3 years in a federal prison. And then after that, she'll have 1 year of supervised release after her 3 years are up. So when the feds start questioning her about identity theft, California investigators are like, wait a minute, we want to know what's happening with this woman. So they fly to Texas to interrogate her. Now, here's where John Floyd comes into play, her attorney. He's like, look, they really, were tough on her. And I know that she was leading a double life of sorts, that she'd changed her name and identity, but it was to get away from a really bad situation from her, deceased husband's family who were terrorizing her. And I think the U.S. Attorney's Office treated her really harshly, and they were trying to get her to cooperate, in a case that she just didn't have any information on. She just doesn't know anything about it. So investigators, met with Cynthia Knox / Christina White, the investigators from Santa Barbara, where her daughter died. And Floyd was there, her attorney was there. And he said they just were not satisfied with any of her statements. They really wanted to implicate her and John Litchfield in Lyerla's murder and her daughter Kaja's murder. And her attorney, Floyd, says, we would go over the story of her husband and his murder, and she would cry when they talked to her about the murder of her daughter. She would fall apart, and her attorney's like, she's really suffered through a lot of tragedies, and the stress of this investigation, that investigation, really made her do something stupid, like stealing the identity of a dead baby. It seemed like, a good idea at the time, back when you could get away with these kind of things. But, there's no databases or internet checking up on things. But now it's something she's lived to regret. Really? So
only because you got caught.
So the Houston Chronicle asks John Floyd, so why did John Litchfield and Cynthia Knox get divorced so quickly after Victor Pereira's conviction? And he says, they just rushed into the marriage and it just didn't work out.
Except that they ended up staying together.
Right. Yeah. And when asked about that, it's like, well, he's not her husband. They're business partners, but, that they're not romantically linked.
Oh, boy.
So John Floyd says, quite honestly, she's relieved that this thing is over and she can start fresh without having to look over her shoulder all the time. Actually, during her trial, she turns to her friends and supporters and mouths the words, clean slate.
God.
So Attorney Floyd said, she's dedicated to completing this sentence and getting out of there as soon as she can and moving on with her life and her true identity. And then he adds over his shoulder, and not being afraid of who she is. Yeah. A husband and baby killer. Oops, Did I say that?
She got to be me. She got to be her, whatever.
Exactly. So that, my beloved tipsters, is the story of the death of Skeeter Lyerla. And I think we've all learned something here. Don't accept a nickname like Skeeter, and make sure you have good flooring in your house. And more cowbell.
And remember, if you got a story of a true crime case you think you want to know more about, give us a call at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. Or send us an email to jttipsters@gmail.com.